Hi guys, today I want to talk about first aid and more specifically first aid kits. This is something very near and dear to me when I'm out camping, hiking, mountain bike riding or four-wheel driving, what have you. Me and another person are in charge of the first aid, not only delivering the first aid to any casualties but also the first aid kit and making sure everybody has what they need and everything's in the right place, and that lastly everybody has a basic amount of training. Now you see here I have a much larger first aid kit. This is something that we carry when we're in the four-wheel drives when there's a larger group. Once again, usually it's going to be when we're four-wheel driving, and it's my personal first aid kit for home. My smaller first aid kit, this is usually my go-to first aid kit. However, you can see the size difference and you can understand that you can't fit everything in here that you're going to need for all the different situations that you're going to find yourself in. So, for example, when I'm out mountain bike riding, it's going to be a different setup in here than when I'm out on a 3 or 4 day hike. And I usually take the first aid equipment, okay, from this bigger first aid kit and put into smaller first aid kit and rotate it through. So it's quite important that not only do you have a nice small compact first aid kit that you take with you everywhere you go, but that you either have some spare supplies at home or that you have a much bigger first aid kit which you can take supplies from, just to make sure that the equipment you're carrying, the supplies that you're carrying, match the situation. For example, when we're out mountain bike riding, I'll take more dressings, because if you fall off a mountain bike ride, you'll probably get an injury to a much larger surface area because you're traveling at speed. You fall off, you'll get a large graze, etc. So, you know, rather than when you're out camping, hiking in the mountains, which you might get more rolled ankles and things like that. So you'd carry more strapping tape and compression bandages, etc. Again, every situation requires that you bring appropriate first aid equipment or gear for that specific situation. Alright, the other things I have here is a better quality triangular bandage I'll show you guys. And also, look, it's important that, I mean, I have my camping knife here, but a good quality knife, a pocket knife, something like this, I feel is a really important part of a first aid kit. You may need to make impromptu splints, things like this. If you don't have shears and somebody suffers an injury to the leg or whatever, you need to remove clothing. You're certainly not going to be getting, you know, clothing off somebody that's broken their femur. They just won't let you do it. You might have to cut through the clothing. So, you know, if you're not carrying shears, definitely a knife will double up as that potentially. However, you know, that carries its own risks. But if you need to do what you need to do, then, you know, there's no other choice. Okay, so let's go over this larger first aid kit first and foremost. Pop this one to the side. Okay, this is first aid kit brought from I think a fellow up in North Sydney. I'll try and find the link and post it in the comments. It's not very expensive kit, but it's extremely well made, as you'll see. Down the front here you have the Dr. AB or Dr. SABCD first aid card here. So we have the danger. Okay, the danger not only to the casualty but to yourself as the first responder, and also to bystanders. Response, you know, is the casualty unconscious or conscious? Send for help. Okay, very, very important thing that you should be doing straight away or as soon as possible. Airway, right, so that if they can't breathe, then they're obviously going to die quite soon, and if the airway's not clear, then, you know, there's no chance in that happening, so you need to make sure that's clear. Then obviously make sure they're breathing. If they're not breathing, you have the CPR, and finally the D for defib if you carry one with you. Right, so let's open this one up. Alright, cool. So as you can see, it actually folds out to become quite a big first aid kit. Now, one of the reasons I love this first aid kit, because as you can see, it is absolutely completely labeled. So if you don't use this, you don't open this, or you're not really trained in first aid, and you need to get particular things, or somebody asks you to get particular things, you know, I might give this to a bystander or have it near them and say, pass me a triangular bandage. Right, shit, what's a triangular bandage? Boom, it says triangular bandage right here. They can take it out, they can give it to you. Okay, as an example, you yourself under stress, you know, things become very blurry, and look, these little labels definitely do help. This first aid kit is great as well because you can unzip this little section here. Okay, so you can put your most used items like band-aids, etc. here. Shears, okay, once again, you know, shears I might take from this first aid kit and put it into my daily first aid kit. Antiseptic wipes, hygiene, triangular bandages, wound dressings, okay, tape to secure the dressings. I mean, you know, this thing has it all. Multiple saline drips. It's an excellent first aid kit to have at home, and also to transfer things for certain trips from the bigger one to the smaller one. Right, so we'll pop that one to the side. Alright, the smaller first aid kit, okay, so the bee's knees. So this is what you'll be carrying with you. Ideally you don't want anything too big, too cumbersome, too heavy. Something that you can easily fit in a pocket. And what's really important with first aid kits is that every single person in your group has one, not just the first aider. As a general rule of thumb, you're going to use the casualties first aid supplies first. So two things: A, they need to have the appropriate and fully stocked first aid kit applicable for the situation. So as the group leader or the group's first aid responder, you need to make sure that everybody is on a level playing field there. And B, it's a really good rule of thumb also to make sure that everyone has their first aid kit in the exact same place. Okay, so in our group, it is the topmost pocket of your pack. So it's not buried under a whole bunch of things. So something happens, you go to the casualties pack, boom, topmost pocket, unzip, take it out, and you're ready to roll. Right, so let's open it up and have a look. Okay, so let's have a look what's in this first aid kit, and also how it's packed. So we have the Dr. SABCD. So the first thing is the D. So the D stands for danger, again, not only to the casualty, not only to the bystanders, but to yourself as the first aider. There's no point being a dead first aider, you can't help anyone. One of the most, well, it's certainly a danger to you as the first aider, especially in the long run, is diseases transfer from one person to the other. From things like blood, to from the airway, breathing on you, etc. So look, the thing I have on my first aid kit at the top always is gloves. Okay, so I take the first aid kit out, and this will go for everybody in a hiking party or mountain biking party. Is gloves are on the top. So you know, a casualty is injured, you take the first aid kit out. Okay, if time allows, unless there's some extreme situation, take the gloves, rip it, put them on. Okay, now you're ready to go. You stopped any contamination from blood, etc. Next thing you're going to do, especially if they're unconscious, okay, is so the response. You check their response. They're unconscious. You're checking their airway. Okay, you've cleared the airway. You notice they're still not breathing. Now it's time to do CPR. So you're going to be starting doing the chest compressions, but you're also going to need to breathe for them. Again, a really big danger of diseases coming backwards and forward. So again, towards the top we have here a face mask. So the face mask is basically something that, again, you're going to open, you're going to put over their face, making sure you put it over the right way, and this will allow you to breathe into the casualty, okay, without any saliva or especially vomit if they start to throw up coming back at you, okay, because eating another person's vomit is not the most pleasant thing in the world. So right at the top you've got the two things to help protect you. So the D in the Dr. SABC plan, the danger, here you go. Okay, Next we have, again, depending on the situation. So for here we have wound dressing. So if they're bleeding quite heavily, or snake bites or something like this, you need to apply pressure on the wound. Okay, you can take this out straight away, make sure it's sterile, and you can apply the dressing. Rolled ankles, or then to make sure the dressing stays on, you have crepe bandages. Okay, you also have here more crepe bandages. Okay, so compression bandages, etc. to splint any injuries that may need splinting. Okay, rolled ankles, etc. Triangular bandages. Okay, from here I'll show you now. This is usually one that comes with a lot of first aid kits. If you open it up, you'll notice they're almost see-through. They're quite flimsy. They will do the job, especially in urban environments. However, if a casualty needs to have a sling, or you're out in the middle of nowhere for quite a while, then especially if these things get wet, they'll pretty much dissolve. So you want to have a much better quality triangular bandage with you, something more which is more like material. I can't not stress the importance of this. Not only will this make a much better sling, but if the person is severely bleeding, okay, this will also make an excellent dressing. Okay, much better than these things. These will do, but these are better. Okay, a little bit better. Okay, so from here we have things like band-aids. Now, yes, you'll probably use things like band-aids or the saline, okay, or tweezers a little bit more frequently. But if you're using these items, odds are that the situation isn't quite as desperate, so the casualty isn't in such life-threatening danger. I don't think a lot of people have died from a little cut. Well, not straight away anyway. Of course, there's infection and things like that. However, if you require something like CPR, okay, or there's been a snake bite and you need the much larger, okay, more important parts of your first aid kit, then you're going to need them fast. So the way I suggest you pack your first aid kit is, it's not the most used items at the top, okay, it's the most important items when it comes to a life-threatening situation. So once again, the band-aids and things are at the bottom. So if the band-aids and everything was at the top, then I have to take all this crap out, okay, search for it, okay, maybe already taken out because I'm under stress and shit where I put it. Whereas, there's been a snake bite or whatever it is, okay, I can grab my gloves on, this, boom, okay, I'm good to go straight away, and I can immediately give the casualty some help. Okay, so I mean, it's up to you. That's just how I prefer to pack my first aid kit. Okay, so again we have the saline as well, survival blanket, okay, or the foil blanket. Again, really handy to have, especially if your casualty is going into shock. Good way to keep them warm. Personal medication, I carry aspirins myself, sometimes Nurofen. You want to have something which doubles up with as many uses as possible, and I find aspirins are quite good for that. Okay, so safety pins in here as well, and bits and pieces. Again, it depends where I'm going, what I'm doing, and I'll usually take everything out, make sure everything is in date, make sure any medication's not out of date or expired, and just repack everything, take anything else I need from the larger first aid kit. But there you have it. That's a quick 101 on first aid kits. So in summary, the first aid kit, make sure it's something you can carry with you everywhere, even on day hikes. So small, portable. However, think about where you're going, what you're doing, and what could happen. So don't just think that because you got this fancy new first aid kit that it's going to be, it's going to have everything there for the situations you might get into. I do suggest have a bigger first aid kit and mix and match what you need for those day trips or the weekend trips or what have you. Okay. If you have any questions or want to leave any comments, feel free to do so. I'll answer them as fast as I can. Apart from that, I hope you learned something and enjoyed the video. Stay safe, guys.